Kosovo's territorial integrity. We're quite clear, as far as Britain is concerned, we have an independent Republic of Kosovo within its internationally accepted frontiers, and that means that the north is part of Kosovo. So that's not going to be what it's about.
And why there's a need to have talks between Serbia and Kosovo for this issue?
Because the reality is that Pristina doesn't control the north, and we've got to change that. We have to have a situation where the majority of people in the north accept that they live in Kosovo. That's not going to be very easy. And the important thing is to start with some of the more straightforward issues, perhaps, not to get on to issues of status. But at the end of the day, the answer to many of the questions in northern Kosovo lies in Belgrade, so Belgrade has to be involved.
Do you see as a solution if Kosovar authorities goes once again like they did last year, 25th of July, and to spread their authority in the north with the police officers? Or this is not a solution?
Well, it clearly wasn't a solution on 25th of July, because what we've ended up with is one Kosovo customs officer at gate 1 and one Kosovo customs officer at gate 31. I think that was an important step because symbolically it showed where the frontiers of Kosovo lie. But clearly that's not the way to resolve the problem in the long term. The only way to resolve the problem is through political dialogue, which involves both Pristina, the people themselves in the north, and Belgrade, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, but for that step taken from government, they took support from ICO, for example, during that time.
I don't think they did. I mean, I think it was a step that it was a step that the government took.
I remember the statement from ICO.
Statements, yes, but the ICO were not part of the planning of that operation on the 25th of July, and my government wasn't part of the planning of the operation on the 25th of July.
Okay, which would be the acceptable solution for you as a representative of Britain about the north of Kosovo?
At the end of the day, the north has to be integrated into Kosovo in accordance with the principles of the Ahtisaari plan. We don't want some sort of Republika Srpska in the north.
Or Ahtisaari plus.
I never quite know what people mean by Ahtisaari plus. What I would say is this: one of the positive things about the Ahtisaari plan is that it is actually a very flexible instrument. And what we ought to be doing collectively, international community, government here, and the Kosovo Serbs in the north, and Belgrade, we should all be looking to maximise what can be done under the Ahtisaari plan. For example, the Ahtisaari plan provides for cooperation between municipalities in specific areas of common interest. We should be encouraging that. We should perhaps be encouraging both the 4 municipalities in the north and the Serb majority municipalities in the south to work together more in particular fields. We should certainly be working to make for a transparent Serb system of health and education in the north. So I would say let's push the boundaries of the Ahtisaari plan, but we should not be looking for a solution that is outside the Ahtisaari plan, because I think that will be unacceptable.
Mr. Ambassador, you have considered this dialogue as a tough battle, especially for Serbia. Why?
I think it's a tough battle for everyone. Yeah. We are coming from a situation of war and conflict only 13, 14 years ago. We've had some big difficulties in northern Kosovo recently with barricades, and at the end of the day those barricades are going to have to come down. We have a lot of people in northern Kosovo who refuse to accept the independence of Kosovo, refuse to accept that they live in Kosovo. So it is going to be a tough battle, but it's one we've got to deal with. We've got to deal with the realities.
But you mentioned, especially for Serbia, in one pronunciation for one Serbian radio, if I'm not wrong. And is this because Kosovo are less resistant when it comes to international recommendation about the dialogue?
I don't think so particularly. I think I said something about, we've got a new Serbian government. We've got to see, we know about the political orientation of some of the parties in that government. They aren't, shall we say, natural partners for Kosovo, but sometimes the more hardline political parties can actually deliver results. So I think it's going to be tough for Serbia, but it's going to be tough for Kosovo, and it's going to be tough for the international community.
You mentioned actual government, Serbian government, and the current president are known for their radical attitudes towards Kosovo. Serbian government officials have continued with statements that they will not remove parallel structures in Kosovo, while emphasizing that the division is not subject for Belgrade, since it is not in accordance with the constitution of Serbia. How do you comment that?
Well, I'll first of all comment that I think we're all agreed now, I hope we're all agreed, that partition is not a solution. That's in nobody's interests, and it raises all sorts of spectres and problems in other parts of the Balkans. Certainly my Foreign Secretary has been very clear. We're not in the business of redrawing the boundaries in the Balkans. Yes, people in Belgrade keep saying that they won't recognise Kosovo, but I think we need to just work at the issues that we can begin to agree on. That's why I say it's going to be a very tough road.
Mr. Ambassador, you said that this dialogue should start as soon as possible. Do you believe that this process of dialogue will be successful? And what will be the epilogue?
I believe...
What will Kosovo gain or lose?
Well, I think in the long run it will be successful, because I think a number of countries in the EU can use the leverage of the EU accession process, actually for both Serbia and Kosovo, in a way that leads to an accommodation over northern Kosovo. But as I keep saying, it's going to be difficult, and it's probably going to be a very long road. But I think ultimately it has to be successful. That's in everybody's interests. Sorry, what was the other? I've forgotten what the other part of your question was.
No, what will gain or lose Kosovo?
What will Kosovo gain is the integration of this area, if you like, this black hole in the north, under the Kosovo institutions, but with a very large measure of self-government and autonomy, which is what's provided for in the Ahtisaari plan.
The other part of question, what will Kosovo lose?
I don't think Kosovo has very much to lose in the long run.
Okay. In what level should this dialogue be placed? In the level of Prime Minister, Presidents, or...?
I don't know. I think that is a matter for the parties. That's a matter for discussion.
What would happen if Kosovo was to reject to be part of dialogue?
I think that would be unfortunate, and my government would be one of those trying to persuade the Kosovo government to see the value of moving forward. But my sense is that the Kosovo government realises that the point has come where there has to be a more political level dialogue.
Yes, but as you are aware, the opposition political spectrum, excluding AAK, are against this dialogue. How do you consider their position? I mean, for LDK and self-determination.
Well, I have made it clear to the LDK on a number of occasions that my government thinks that this is a matter of national importance, and on matters of national importance there should be a consensus. So we would like to see the LDK as part of that process. I know the LDK at the moment are saying that they're not prepared to, if you like, carry responsibility for the government. But I think some of that is linked to this issue about the political agreement on the president. I think the LDK can be persuaded, as it has always been persuaded in the past, to take up its national responsibility. I think Veteran dossier is a different matter.
Why?
Because of their radical stance on a lot of things. I think Veteran dossier are still at a stage where they need to decide whether they're a political party or a street movement.
Have you tried to speak with Veteran dossier like you did with LDK?
Yes. Not recently. Not recently about this particular issue. As I say, I think our conversations with Veteran dossier have been more about what the nature of their movement is, and is it really a parliamentary political party.
How do you see their decision of Veteran dossier?
Their decision not to support any sort of dialogue with Serbia, I mean, I'm not surprised by it. I think it's wrong, but then I think quite a lot of what Veteran dossier are trying to do is wrong.
Okay, Mr. Ambassador, which is the support of Great Britain for people of Kosovo if their representatives go for political talks with Serbia?
Well, we will certainly support that process. As I said earlier, we will also use the leverage provided by the EU path for both Serbia and Kosovo to try and bring about a situation in which some sensible and practical arrangements can be made. Serbia is at a particularly critical point. It needs a date for the start of accession talks. We've made it clear that the requirement for that is good neighbour relations with Kosovo, and that includes dismantling of the Serb security parallel structures in the north. So that will be one element where we can help play a role. And also we will be encouraging Kosovo in terms of whatever the outcome is of the feasibility study to be also on the EU path. I think EU, we have found that in the Balkans the EU process offers a lot of opportunities to move countries forward. It's not a panacea, it's not a
and how will you
solution,
condition Serbia in its EU integration process for this issue?
Well, I think we will say to Serbia, you have to have good neighbour relations with Kosovo. We're not asking you to recognise, and part of that good neighbourly relationship is a much more sensible relationship with Kosovo over the north, and in particular the removal of the security parallel structures and a more transparent arrangement for health and education.
Yeah, but let me mention also a statement from Chief of the Office of Kosovo in Government of Serbia, Aleksandar Vulin. He said that he does not believe that the removal of Serbian institution in Kosovo will be a condition for EU membership. How do you comment on this?
I think he's wrong.
Yeah. Okay. And Prime Minister of Serbia, Ivica Dačić, has stated that it is not known when and in what form will the dialogue between Belgrade and Pristina continue. He said that this issue will be discussed in Brussels on 4th September with top officials of EU. Will this be seen as the date of the beginning of the dialogue? Or? Well,
I suspect it won't be the very beginning of the dialogue, particularly. I mean, that is an opportunity to discuss the modalities. I suspect it will take some time after that to actually get the dialogue underway. And as I said earlier, I don't know precisely what level it will be at. I don't know who precisely will be the mediator. There are a lot of issues that need to be sorted out. But equally, I think it's important we get it going as quickly as possible.
And do you think that the ruling coalition in Kosovo should be restructured if our institutions enter into negotiations with Serbia? What should be the contribution of opposition parties in Kosovo?
Well, I think it's a matter for internal political discussion, whether the government needs to be restructured or not. What I would go back to is what I said earlier. I think it is the national responsibility of the opposition, or at least the mainstream opposition, to work with the government on a national effort on relations with Serbia and on the north. That, of course, means that somehow the governing parties have to have a process of consultation with the opposition. The opposition aren't going to blanket support whatever the government puts forward, but there needs to be a national consensus. And by the way, people in Belgrade are also talking about a national consensus there on Kosovo.
And one last question, Mr. Ambassador, do you consider that in this process should be included Serb representatives of Kosovo institutions? They have expressed their willingness to be part of Kosovo team in talks with.
I think that's pretty important. I think perhaps the Kosovo Serbs who are part of the Kosovo institutions have not been integrated into this process sufficiently up to now. I think you have some very good people, both in government, I mean at ministerial level, and in the civil service, and their views should certainly be taken into account.
And how do you see Serbian people's rights in Kosovo? Are they how are they treated from Kosovo society?
I think there's still a long way to go in terms of real equality and a really good relationship between Kosovo Albanians, the Kosovo Albanian majority, and all the minorities, but particularly the Kosovo Serb minority. For example, we would like to see the government produce a plan for bringing more members of the minorities into the civil service. There's still a deficit, particularly of Kosovo Serbs, in the civil service. I'm also rather worried that there has been, or appears to have been, an increase in attacks or violent incidents against Kosovo Serbs south of the river Ibar. Not every incident in which a Kosovo Serb is involved is necessarily ethnically motivated, but clearly quite a lot of these incidents do stem from ethnic hatred and rivalry. And all I would say is that it's absolutely crucial that the police and the government demonstrate that they are taking these incidents seriously. Otherwise it plays into the hands of extremists in the north who say that Kosovo or the Pristina institutions are not a safe place for ordinary Serbs, and that's a very negative message.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you. Faleminderit.